bit of earlage action coming at you. Good morning. It is early and we are going to go tarp the silage pile and pile tires on it. It's gonna be a grand old time. So I'll have a wake alert enthusiastic. It is foggy this morning. Can't really see the neighbors. We're just down by the creek, so that's what it is. But good morning. Just pooing. Time to go have grand old time. We got tire walls to throw up on there and the plastics over here. I'm gonna have to use a loader tractor with an extension on it to get them up there because it's tall in the air. But it's about to be a workout. It's gonna be fantastic. Tires are on. Now we're packing dirt on the sides. Getting her to pull tight. So get all the loose fabric out of here. A little bit of earlage action coming at you. Yeehaw, only a little bit to do. Finishing out the field earlage. The insurance guy came this morning, so we are good to go to take out these strips so we can finish the field and go that road. Yeehaw. This is the difference between earlage and silage that you can see directly in the field if I get nice and close. You can see where we did silage, it takes the entire plant. Where you have the left side right along the corn, that is earlage. So it is spitting out everything but the ear back on the ground. So we could roll corn stalks off of that. Cows can graze that a whole bunch. Earlage is only the ear. Silage is the entire corn plant into one feed source. So you'll see the difference when we're done. So, as we were discussing, silage is the entire corn plant chopped into one feed source that then ferments. Earlage is just the ear. So it's essentially kind of like combining corn, picking corn, whatever you call it, where they fluff out the rest of the corn stalk, which will then dry and you can use for bedding, or it's organic matter for your soil, the cows can graze it, all that fun stuff. So nutritionally, what is the difference between silage and earlage? So silage itself, as I've mentioned, is the entire corn plant. So it's going to have a lot more of like fiber and filler and all of that dry matter type stuff with not as high of amounts of energy, because it's going to be more ton per acre that you do versus tonnage per acre for earlage. Earlage is going to be not fed to cattle, or not fed to our cows. It'll be fed to our like feedlot cattle, because it's going to be a high energy source. It's essentially literally just corn, just higher moisture content, fermented a little bit, type of feed source versus like dried cracked corn. So it is going to be a nice, we're not chopping a lot of earlage just kind of to clean up this field, but it'll be a nice little, where's the bump, backup feed if it gets too cold to grind, or we end up in a mud hole, if we want to finish our fats their last month or so on earlage, or whatever we end up deciding to do. It's just kind of a backup source. And we have the corn here. It's only about 8 to 10 acres left, so it's not going to be a very big pile. But it is an option, and it is a really good feed source. We have chopped more earlage before than this, but that's kind of the difference between earlage and silage. Silage will go to the cows and the fats and the feeder cattle. Earlage will go to the fat cattle and later stages of feeder cattle, not to the cows, because it's so high in starch and energy and all of that stuff. Because it's like, it'd be like eating like a balanced, healthy meal with vegetables and such with like silage, versus just like straight up carbs and carbs only with earlage. So. We're covering the earlage pile. This one's not very big. You can see dirt around the edges. A little bit here hide in there. Get these edges all tight, snug. She's good to go, but they're pretty tight right here, so. It just pulls it tight, so nice. So this pile will be completely sealed up so it will ferment properly. The other one we're kind of feeding out of, slash too short of a tarp, slash it's fermenting in the pile in there, but. Bam. Throwing tires. These are the actual tires. Over on another pile over there that you can't really see, we had half walls of truck tires, so they're really easy to handle and they lay flat, where these kind of sit up. They're heavier, they're full of dirt, they're gross, there's mice and rats in them, but those half tire walls are real nice. So getting some tires thrown in here kind of looks like chaos, but the goal is for this tarp not to have issues. So getting her done. It's at that time of year where it was like 40 degrees this morning, and now I'm sweating and ready to not wear a sweatshirt, but getting her done. Here comes some more tires. Ready to watch out. Yep, there he is himself. Wild man. All right, my hair is crazy. This is what it is, but silage is done. So let's go show you what the pile looks like at the end. Talk about a few things. Wrap this video up. My editing is going to be probably subpar just because the chaos of busy season, but I want to make sure we talk about what I want to share about and answer some of the things that you might be wondering. So walking down the feed alley, it is what it is, and there's a semi in our way, so we're going to go navigate ourselves under and through and go hang on top of the pile. So okay, most of the time this will be completely covered. Our tarp is a little short and we're actively feeding this right now, so don't come at me, but the goal of tarping the pile is for it to ferment. That's how you maintain feed quality. That's how it actually turns into silage instead of just like chopped up corn parts. So it is actively fermenting under this pile. There are some people talking out like my South Dakota friends, some of them, it's a joke, that don't ever tarp their pile. So this is just what would spoil if it wouldn't be fed right away. It's dry on the top, so you can hear it. That's not like a silage anymore. It's just like dried corn stalks. But if we dig down, oh, it is hot and toasty. I don't know if you can see steam coming off of this. When I dig, she's hot. She is actively fermenting. even where it's not covered. And it's really fermenting up here and not being like sun bleached. So I'm only gonna climb up so far so the dogs don't follow me. But this is the pile covered. All of the tires, I didn't get footage of it, but it was miserable. It was hot, it was windy, it was not great when we were throwing tires. So you missed out on seeing me like struggle to breathe because hulking these things around up and down the pile and off the tractor, bale spear, it was just an adventure. So there is tires literally covering this thing. We will also get it shut up once this is fed. And we'll have only a little part of it open because last year our truck ripped in January, so the goal is to prevent that. So the edges have dirt piled around them if I walk down this way. And then there is a ton of tire sidewalls and regular tires. You can see all over this pile. So dirt on the bottom holding it down because the wind in the land of flatness is terrible. So the goal is to keep her covered. She's fermenting. That process, 10 to 14 days, and that fermentation is, there's heat coming off that pile. I can feel it, like you standing up there, it's toasty. Like you saw, I don't know if you can see in that video, I'll see it when I edit this, but just the steam coming from the silage rotting, but turning into silage, that fermentation process produces a lot of heat. So once we dig into the actual fermented silage in the next week or two, that's the point that it's going to be really high quality feed that'll maintain for a year plus. So this will feed all the way through next September, October is the goal. It's kind of the way we planned it. We did run a little bit low this year, so we had to kind of adjust a few things, but we did a lot more. One, because of the barn, and two, because we didn't have enough and we're feeding more cattle. So that's corn silage. So corn silage, as I mentioned, is the entire, it'd be really funny to him hit. Corn silage is the entire corn plant besides the root system, essentially, and like this much above the ground, chopped into one feed source. It will be fed to the cows, the new calves that come in or that get weaned, and the fat cattle. So it has a little bit of energy, but it also has a lot of just that filler, fiber, corn stalk part of it. So that's corn silage. And then we walk across the yard past the bunker. This is where we keep our ground hay. And we just covered our earlage pile, which is also from corn. So this pile is not as big because it will only be fed to the feedlot animals. So essentially fat cattle that are on corn in the process of being finished, adding that fat, that flavor. There is a goat out and she's fainting and you missed it. See her over there? A little turn. Velma! Get your little butt back in. yeah, she's doing the walk of shame back in. Commentary relief. I wish I could zoom in right now. I'll probably zoom in. Slowly but surely, we have fainting goats too. Fun fact, so that happened. That was a swerve. Totally left. Okay. This is earlage. So earlage is literally only the corn cob and the corn ground up into a feed source. So if I walk to the other end, you'll see it. There's not a lot of the extra fluff. There's no corn stalk. There's no husks. There's none of that stuff. It's just cob, corn, higher energy feed source. So you don't have the extra filler. You don't have the extra fiber. The cows themselves, mama cows, will not be fed earlage because we're not in need of all the energy, right? Like they're not here with the goal of gaining weight to become beef. They're here to maintain their weight, maintain their condition, and produce a calf and have milk for the calf. That's just why silage is a really nice feed source for that. But earlage is too rich. They don't need it. If you get cows too fat, they're going to have issues, calving, all that fun stuff. So you can see, I'll probably get a pile of both and incorporate this in this video. This is earlage. It's really dried out. But it's literally corn. A little bit of corn stalks in here that just come into the planter. Not in the planter. Oh my gosh, what did I just say? Into the chopper because of wind and such, but literally it's corn. Just whatever. Dried up because it's out in the sun. So this is not covered, but this entire pile is covered. So this is just starting to ferment. It's a different plastic, which is why it's black. A cheaper one because it's a smaller pile. It'll ferment, it'll do that whole thing. We're not going to open this up for a while because we can feed cracked corn. So we do have the storage already since we're grain farmers as well for corn. and we have the grinder, so we'll feed cracked corn, which is usually what we do. We just chopped a little extra earlage because we had some in the field right out here. Took it all out after the crop adjuster came, and then we did a little bit of another field. I think we only did 16, 17, 18 acres or so, so it's not a lot. But it's enough to be a couple months supply when it's really cold. If the grinder ends up breaking, since it's old, the dogs are playing. But even like January, February, when it's like -30 with extreme wind and it feels like -50 outside, ain't nobody want to grind corn. We could just open this up, switch some rations, and feed earlage for a while if we wanted. Or we could finish our fat cattle on earlage instead of corn. If corn goes really high, we can sell our corn instead and feed this. Just some options that we have. It's just a really nice feed source. Under that thing, it's starting to ferment. We covered it today. This one has regular piles or regular tires, not sidewalls, and dirt in there. So earlage, silage, you kind of know the differences now. Earlage is just the corn and the cob. See, like, think about sweet corn. It's like if you just dice that up in a blender, right? Except for it's a little bit dried down. And then silage is the entire corn plant chopped into one. So other than that, I have some other footage and stuff I'll talk about, but I know someone's going to ask, and I was asked on Instagram, is the seed that we planted for silage the same seed as what we planted for like regular corn? Yes and no. It depends. There's lots of hybrids out there that can do both. The corn that we planted for silage specifically is in a couple fields, so it will become regular corn that we will sell or feed. Silage hybrids tend to be a taller plant, have a little bit more girth in the stalk depending on the variety. And Northern King 0748, so it's 107-day corn. It gave us a little bit longer window since we have a guy that custom chops for us, and he's got a whole list of customers, and we had it on different fields. So this field's a little bit heavier ground. It did really well. Got some timely rains. Still great when we chopped. It was like turning, obviously. But we have a field 1.5 miles northeast, and it missed a couple small rain showers, and that field is white. It is ready to be completely combined. Same exact variety, not yielding as high. This yielded really high, even with half the field being corn on corn. It was like adjusted at 210. So I'm not afraid to talk about yield, but I'm not going to brag. That's just, it did really well for how dry we were, and we're thankful for that. It's just taller plant, had really nice ears on it. It did really well for us. We will plant that variety again. It's now my dad's favorite, I think. So despite having a really dry year with just barely enough timely rains, essentially is what we got, it did very, very, very well. So we're excited. There's some at my house. I can show you the actual plant as well. But that's like, I'll show you the pile. That is the gist of silage all in one. I'm gonna edit this video, I'm gonna upload it. You're gonna watch this and be like, what is she talking about? But we got her done.